Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and as promised, I'm going to do a video on how to stake a completely overgrown tomato. And I got my young fella here on the camera, being the cameraman. So I got a tomato garden here, just show the tomato garden. And some of the tomatoes are staked, but because I've been kind of lazy, some of them are not staked. And it's around the middle of August, and I should have done this months and months and months ago, but it's not too late, and it's worthwhile to do. So I'm going to do a few of these and show you how to do it at this stage of the growth of the tomato. So you're going to have a stake in the ground, and it's got some sticks basically, and you want to cut some pieces of twine. This is just cheap old dollar store jute twine. Maybe cut about 6 pieces of it that are about, I don't know, 2 feet long. All right, now try to find, they're all tangled in together, right? This is just never a good way to grow tomatoes. And you're gonna have to be more rough and more aggressive with the tomato than you wanna be, but that's the only way to do this. Okay, so I've got this thing picked up now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gently wrap it around stake. Don't worry about this thing breaking or that thing. Just accept that stuff's going to break. All right, you're doing the best you can. So I'm going to double up this twine here and make a knot. That's our first knot. It's not all the way to the top. I'll do another one at the top because it wants to flop. You can see I've bent the plant. Hopefully it can recover from that. It's amazing what these plants can take. Sometimes an injury wrecks them, and sometimes it doesn't bother them at all. Okay, so now I got that one up. Now I could add more supports down here, but I don't really need to because I'm bringing off some of these lower ones, but I'm gonna snake another one around the one I just put up. And I'll put another piece of twine to hold that. Whoa, I lost it. This is, of course, a great job to have an extra set of hands with, but you can do it on your own. The flies are so bad out here, I have to come out very early in the morning to do stuff like this. This summer I've been extremely lazy because my teenagers have been so helpful in the garden. I haven't really had to do much, I have to say. It's made me lazy and soft because they've done so much. All right, so 2 sets of twine on that. I got another piece of that plant over here. Try to disentangle that. It doesn't seem to want to. Oh, lost a tomato there. No big deal. Now I'm going to wind this one a different direction. Oh, wait a minute. I'm out of pieces of twine. I got to make some more. You probably need almost a dozen per plant, right? You need more than you think. Okay, so this one here I'm going to wind it a different direction, counter to the direction I wound the other one. That'll kind of hold it all together. And I'll put a wrap around the top here. I'm just doing a double overhand knot here, nothing fancy. No fancy survivalist knots here. Whatever works. And probably wouldn't hurt to add one more around the bottom just to bring it all together. I'll triple that one because it's quite long. There we go. Okay, now I brought everything up I can. Now I'm just going to clean it up. I'm going to take off lower pieces of the plant that are touching the ground. Now, as a general rule with tomatoes, you don't want foliage touching the ground. It can cause disease. And so all this lower stuff can go. You can cut it off neatly with scissors, or you can just nip it off with your hands. Okay, and just clean the plant up a little bit. Anything that looks yellowed gets removed. And there, that one's done. All right, so you can see from what was a mess, I've got a nice, neat plant, and I got a nice space between the plant and the ground where there's airflow and less risk of disease, right? Plant's elevated. When you get it all on the ground like this, I mean, and there's lots of cases where you can just have a crazy, what I call hippie garden, and everything's all over the place, and it works out just fine, okay? But you do run the risk of disease, and all the crawling pests, like slugs and stuff like that, it's just easier for them to get at your plants, right? Slugs will make holes in tomatoes, but they won't climb this. This is spiny. Generally speaking, they're going to stay off your tomatoes if the bottoms are bare like that. They're down here in this universe. They come to the base of the plant. There doesn't seem to be anything interesting there. Tomatoes got a very bitter, almost toxic taste, and they don't bother climbing it. They leave it alone. And a lot of other pests will too. So this is a better way to have a disease-free, pest-free plant, right? It can dry off after rains, and it's just a little bit more pest resistant. Let's do another one. Okay, so this one's huge, and I'm very worried that I'm going to break the plant. But again, you can't, at this stage, you just can't worry about it. You got to just say, are you doing it or not, right? You got to do it. Oh, and I got to get some more twine ready. So let's get about 8 good pieces. Let's see if that's enough. Scissors are handy for this. You don't need to use a knife like I'm using. This is just a knife, old steak knife that I keep out in the garden, because you can always use a knife in the garden. Okay, I got a nice piece ready to go here. And I'm going to start working this tomato around the stake. This one's really heavy. It's got a lot of plant growth on it. It'd be a miracle if I can get this up without, and it's got a big bend in it. I think right there I gotta tie one on. I'm gonna have to do this. It's so heavy at the top. I'm gonna have to do this all one-handed. I'll do multiple wraps here. It's handy for this sort of thing. Instead of having like smooth stakes like they sell in the store, they have just like pieces of tree. It's rougher and it hangs onto your twine better, right? Of course, this isn't a piece of twine that I cut. This is all right. That's good enough. All right, now thankfully somehow that didn't break, so I can continue to wrap that around the stake. Put another one right here. And this can still climb more. You know, it's middle of August. It's perfectly reasonable to expect this plant to continue to grow for another, I don't know, few weeks anyway. The ends have been broken off here. That's okay, we just cut that. This is unnecessary, but I'm just going to tie that in to train it in the right direction, since I'm out here anyway. A little piece like that. Now I'm going to bring in the lower part. Got a nasty looking branch down here. I'll just take that off. Anything that looks discolored, just remove. I know I seem to be brutal here, but sometimes you gotta be brutal. It's just no way around it. Tie that on. That should be enough to hold it. Now we got a bit more foliage. I can tie this piece up here. You notice I didn't do a lot of ties on this one. It's because we can, each piece of the plant we train up the trellis adds strength to the overall trellising project. Got another big piece right here. I'll do this one in the opposite direction. Get a piece of twine ready. Opposite direction. I'm not going too aggressive with this twisting, right? You twist too aggressively, you'll break the plant. But that's okay. That's good what I just did there. Just a gentle wrap. Almost like the way you'll see an actual vining plant. Right? Tomato isn't a vining plant in the sense that it grabs and hangs onto things the way a bean or a pea will. It doesn't have that habit. But you can treat it that way. You can trick it into behaving that way. Okay, I got another piece here. I got another piece down here I'm gonna cut off. Even though it has a couple tomatoes on it, I'm just gonna sacrifice that. Right? You don't have to grow. Every tomato on the plant doesn't have to mature. There's no, I mean, it's one thing if you've only got one plant, maybe you try to hang on to everything, but I got over a dozen tomato plants. It's a lot of tomatoes, so I don't need all of them. I will trellis up this piece though, and that'll probably be it for this plant. Notice most of these wraps I'm doing doubles. It just evens out the stress on the stalk, right? 2 points of contact instead of one. There, I think that one's done. There's nothing else down here. Now I just go around and remove anything that looks diseased, or anything that's too low that's kind of like in the shade, right? It's not gonna grow well anyway. There's no point in leaving it. And you notice I'm not throwing the things I'm breaking off at the base of the plant. That can cause problems too. There's a risk anyway. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but there's a risk. Piece there I'm going to take off too. All right, I'm training this plant up, not sideways. So it's okay if you remove a little of this lower foliage, right? It'll put on new foliage above. It's a pretty clean job, okay? All right. I might get another couple feet out of this plant by middle of September at the rate it's growing right now. So that's how you train a overgrown, neglected tomato plant that's going all over the place in hippy-dippy fashion up a stake. I mean, it's just one way to do it. There's many ways to do it. Of course, the easiest way is to have nice big tomato cages and put them over the tomato when it's just a transplant and just gently massage that tomato up the cage over the course of its life. But if you don't do that and you're in a state like I'm at in August, it's not too late and it's not too hard. I mean, I don't know how long each one of these took, maybe 5 minutes, right? So 5 minutes a plant, you got 12 plants. Yeah, that's about an hour, but you know, I mean, it's beautiful out here, right? You're getting some fresh air, you're getting a little bit of exercise, you're bending down and using your body and all that sort of stuff. And you're helping your tomatoes be healthy for the remainder and most productive stage of their growth. So that's how you train an overgrown tomato up a stake. No big deal. Hope you found this interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast at maritimegardening.com. Check out my weekly article at maritimegardening.substack.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.